Alrighty, welcome back to the book of Revelation. And tonight we're going to do chapter 7 and 8. And I hope you enjoy this. This is getting where it's actually enjoyable to read. We're getting into the things. And really, I've enjoyed this so far. So I'm not going to give too many commentaries tonight. This is pretty simple. We're seeing the sealings of God's servants, and that's in chapter 7 and chapter 8. We're going to get into the seventh seal. So far we've seen the six seals have been done. We're fixing to go into the seventh seal, and there are things that happen. Now, in the seventh seals, we're going to see the beginning of the seven trumpets to sound, is where you're going to see that. So this is where it gets pretty intense. A lot of things happen. You'll see later on in the other chapters, we're going to see where some of these seals are going to be explained, especially seals 5 and 6 and 7. They're going to be more intense later on in the other chapters. So, like I said, there are things we don't understand. We can guess, make commentaries, don't stand by it, just make it calculated sometimes what you think it may be, but also stating you may not be correct, subject to change. The main thing is don't lead people astray. If you're having a comment or you think that's the correct thing, come out and say that. Because there are certain things that we can stand on the rock and say, yeah, we know this is going to happen. Other things are speculation. Now, one of those events is going to be the 200 million horsemen. We will see in that one. Is it because we know the king that's going to rule over them is going to be Abaddon? But it comes down to, are they Chinese or are they something else? Or is that a demonic army? Things aren't too clear on that. We know the river Euphrates dries up and they come across, and a third of mankind will be killed. When they let loose, it's kind of horrifying, but that's during the trumpets. Also, you're going to see the beginning of, and we get into chapter 8, will be the three woes. And we'll see when it takes place. All right. So let's get started. Chapter 7 of the book of Revelations, the sealing of God's servants. And after these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. So we see here, we've got the sealing of God's servants. So we're also seeing the counterfeit with the mark of the beast. Always remember, Satan is going to counterfeit the things of Christ. And I heard the numbers of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So these are the 144,000 from the 12 from each 12 tribes. Now I will say this: they are chaste male virgin. Now we'll see that later on. That'll be covered later in the book of Revelation. But they are chaste male virgins. And remember, they ain't the Jehovah's Witnesses that come knocking on your door on Saturday, handing you the Watchtower tracts. They ain't it. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe uh, Nephthalim were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Now, the thing about the tribe of Manasseh, they replaced the tribe of Dan. We know in the Old Testament that uh, the God got rid of the tribe of Dan after they crossed into the Promised Land. Okay, so we'll see them reappear back in the millennial reign. We know the tribe of Dan will be reestablished. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zabulon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. Okay, the saints in white robes. After I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds, and people, and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne, and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces, and worshipped God, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory, wisdom and thanksgiving, and honor and power and might to be unto our God forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. All right, let's go to the book of Revelation. Let's do the outline. Hopefully, these outlines are helping to clear up a little bit. They're just reemphasizing the main points that were brought out in the verses to help clarify what the chapter is saying. So we see here that so far a lot of it is very explanatory. Be careful of timelines. I've seen nobody gets timelines right. That's something drives me nuts. Is their timelines? People are guessing all over the place when it comes out and it tells you in the chapter what it's saying. And we know that through the Old Testament and some parts of New Testament, what was said about certain events and people and images and all that should be clarified when we get into them. You can go back, especially the book of Daniel, and you can clarify some of this stuff up and do some of the other chapters that we covered. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the outline. The 144,000 sealed on earth, that's verses 1 through 8. The angels restrained, that's verses 1 through 3. John saw four angels at the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, sea, or any tree. John saw another angel ascending from the east, crying with a loud voice to the four angels granted to harm the earth and sea, instructed them not to harm the earth, sea, or trees until the servants of God were sealed on their foreheads. Okay. The 144,000 sealed. That's verses 4 through 8. John heard the number of those sealed. Those sealed were 12,000 each from the tribe of Israel. Those sealed were 12,000 from these fallen tribes: Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Nephilim, if I ever get that right, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zabulon, Joseph, and Benjamin. So those are the 12 tribes. Like I said, Manasseh had replaced the tribe of Dan. Okay. The great multitude in heaven, verses 9 through 17. John sees a great multitude. That's verses 9 through 12, which none could number, from all nation, tribe, people, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, crying with a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb," which we know is Jesus. Angels and the elders and the four living creatures also join in with praise, falling on their faces before the throne and worshiping God, ascribing amen, blessing, glory, wisdom, thanksgiving, honor, power, and might to God. The great multitude is identified. That's verses 13 through 17. Okay, this is our blessed hope. Asked by one of the elders, John put the question back to him. The elder identified the great multitude, those who come out of the great tribulation, that's the last 3.5 years, with the Antichrist, who has become the abomination of desolation, who have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb, who are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple. The elder describes their future blessedness. The one on the throne will dwell with them. They shall not hunger nor thirst any more. The sun nor any heat shall strike them. The Lamb will shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of water. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. So we see a lot that's happened here. We see the servants of God, the 144,000, and then we see the great multitude, which are those who were killed during the Great Tribulation. And it's a mass amount of number. Alrighty, so let's go back and let's do chapter 8. Okay. Okay, this is the beginning of when a lot more stuff happens. When we get into the seventh seal, the key thing to remember, a third. That will, if you add anything into any notes, when you get into the trumpets, you're going to see a third of things happen. Okay, and the three woes. Okay, the seventh seal, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about the space of half an hour. So when we see here, when that seventh seal is broken, there is silence in heaven. That's very important. You remember that. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came in with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar, cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the seventh angel, which had the seven trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and a third part of the trees was burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. So we see here the first trumpet, a third of vegetation, and the grass is burned up. And the second angel sounded, and was it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. So be an asteroid or whatever God designed it to be. So just like a burning mountain falls into the ocean, what happens? A third part of the seas became blood, and a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. A third and third. So we're seeing how this is taking place. And the third part, okay, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven burning as if it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they had been made bitter. So we're seeing another third, a third part of what? Of drinking water. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. So we'll see in the next two chapters, we're going to see a woe. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the outline of chapter 8. Alrighty. Book of Revelation, chapter 8, the outline. Okay, the seventh seal, there's silence in heaven for half an hour. Okay, the Lamb opens the seal. That's verse 1a. And the silence in heaven for half an hour is part 1b, the second part of that verse. Preparation for the sounding of the trumpets is verses 2 through 6. Seven angels prepared, that's verse 2. 7 angels who stand before God, to them were given 7 trumpets. The angel with the golden censer, verses 3 through 6, came and stood before the altar, was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar before the throne. The smoke of the incense and the prayer of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, threw it to the earth, accompanied by noises, thundering, lightnings, and an earthquake. The 7 angels with the 7 trumpets then prepared themselves to sound. The first 4 trumpets, verses 7 through 12. The first trumpet, vegetation is struck, verse 7. Hell and fire mingled with blood, thrown to the earth, a third of the trees burned up, and all green grass burned up. The second trumpet, the seas are struck, verses 8 through 9. Something like a great burning mountain thrown into the sea. A third part of the sea became blood. A third of the creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships destroyed. The third trumpet, rivers and springs struck. Verses 10 through 11. A great burning star fell on a third of the rivers and springs of water, named Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood. Many men died from the bitter waters. They became poisoned. The fourth trumpet, heaven is struck. That's verse 12. A third of the sun, moon, and stars struck. A third of them were darkened, so that a third of the day and night did not shine. The threefold woe announced, that's verse 13. An angel flying through heaven, that's part of verse 13a, that's the first part. Pronouncing a threefold woe, that is 13b, that's the second part of the verse. Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound. That is horrifying. So this takes care of 7 and 8. Nothing should really be that hard to understand. Just understand the events are going to happen. Sometimes when you put too much into this and start, like I say, running down rabbit holes, the main thing about this study, keep it simple. They're going to happen when they happen. And too many people get lost in speculations and theories and everything else. I'd leave it this simple. It ain't happened yet. And keeping it this simple, I can remember 90% of all this. It's not hard. It's a lifetime study, but I will always tell you, keep this study simple. You don't get lost. All you need to know is these events are going to take place, and they're going to take place in order. And if you can keep it that simple, the book of Revelation is not going to be that hard. There are some parts that are hard to understand. We ain't got there yet. When we start getting into a couple more chapters ahead, then we're going to have to sit down and buckle down. And just there's going to be some things that we may not totally understand. We know events are going to happen, and we'll do our best to understand, but not get dragged into rabbit holes. When they happen, they will be clear. All right. Thank you for the study, and I will see you in the next segment.